The player that won't be traded, but probably should be traded. Dave, your 60 seconds starts now.
Well, again, I gave my Klay Thompson and LeBron cases in round one. I mean, look, the easy answer here, and I think I'm going to steal Mike's answer, but the easy answer here, it would be Zach LaVine. But for me, it's actually Dejounte Murray. This dude, every single time he posts on social media, it's like, hey, I'm available and ready to go. Please get me out of here. It just seems like they don't like each other down there. It's not going to work. And this guy, I think, could be a key contributor on a championship level team. I mean, he's not going to be your best player on a championship team. Hopefully not even your third. But man, if he's your fourth best guy or fifth best guy, he would be amazing. He fits the Warriors extremely well and some of the stuff they need. They could use a bigger guard, a guy who could do what Klay Thompson used to do and go and guard at point of attack players when he's playing with Steph Curry. So Steph doesn't have to do all that stuff. He's a great rebounder. I mean, again, something else. The Warriors.
Time.
Good point.
Mike, your 60 seconds begins now.
Well, I was going with Zach LaVine. Then Dave kind of took that off the board. Then I was actually going to go with Dejounte Murray. Then Dave took that off the board. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make a hard pivot. Guys, let's stop thinking about the middle of the NBA. Let's stop thinking about the top of the NBA. Let's start thinking about the bottom of the NBA. I think the Pistons should trade Jaden Ivey. How about that? Look, they're in a bad spot here. He is their best chance to pivot a little bit, get another player with potential that you could put around Cade Cunningham, make the fit a little bit better, and acquire someone that Cade can grow old with. It's odd right now what's going on in Detroit. Aside from the roster fit, like, everything's clearly not working. Just look at their record, right? And Monty Williams, for one reason or another, has just refused to play Jaden Ivey significant minutes for the majority of the season, has refused to put the ball in his hands so often. And you got to change something up. You can't keep doing the same thing. Everyone keeps talking about trading Bojan Bogdanovic. I get why, but like you actually want to avoid.
I could not
have
disagree more. Could not disagree more on Jaden Ivey.
Why?
When you're the Detroit Pistons and you lack talent, especially youth talent, look, that is a talented player. They need to keep him. Everybody else is on the roster, could be available. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, and that's about it for me. Right? You can't trade those three guys. Trade Monty Williams before you trade Jaden Ivey. Monty Williams is the problem there. And
I don't think you get out from that.
Cade Cunningham would work well together. I mean, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, that's a little bit of a comp, and it's a stretch. But you can see where having a dynamic ball handling guard and a bigger playmaking guard, I mean, that works. And in the modern NBA, I've never heard a team say, we just got too many guys that can do stuff with the ball in their hands. That's never a bad problem. The problem in Detroit is coaching and lack of imagination. It is not Jaden Ivey. Oh my gosh, this is the most passionate I've ever felt about anyone's made up trade.
Look, I'm not saying to trade
Hayes, get him out of here. Jaden Ivey.
Well, I mean, what's Killian Hayes got to do with this?
I would make Jaden Ivey the coach before I would trade him.
I'm not saying Jaden Ivey is bad. I'm not saying the Pistons are overrun with ball handlers and playmakers. I am saying they have a young, interesting ball handler and playmaker. That's not doing anything for him. And the coach is making 13. He's making $13 million a year. Monty Williams ain't going nowhere. Even if you wanted Monty Williams to go somewhere, you're paying him $13 million a year. That's a lot of money. That means he's staying, right? You made the commitment to him. So now you try to maximize your roster as is. Do you try to make a deal with San Antonio where you get Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and some other guys that you can kind of fit around Cade Cunningham to improve the total five? Do you try to look for another team that's also on the ascent that needs someone who's a ball handler that can give you some of what you need? Like, try to make the pieces fit so you have a more cohesive roster around Cade Cunningham, because I think Cade is pretty good, but Cade Cunningham also needs better shooting around him. He needs better defense around him. He needs better, like, everything around him, right? And so maybe Jaden Ivey is your way to get that and to arbitrage the build a little bit, because there's really nothing else you can trade. I don't think a first-round pick this year, even if it's very high up, is going to be that interesting to teams based on what everyone's saying about the 2024 draft. So then what are you doing? Like, how are you going to get better without giving away every one of your picks going forward? I think Jaden Ivey might be that guy, might be the tool that you have to use to kind of improve the roster on the whole instead of just focusing on one possibly top end guy.
Seems to me like Cade Cunningham actually fits the description of what you're because Cade Cunningham would net you a haul of assets. Jaden Ivey.
Well, I mean, then just give it up.
Listen, well, this is what I'm saying. So Jaden Ivey has not gotten a chance. Jaden Ivey is going to be looked at as a second draft guy for teams because his coach won't play him. It's not because he's not talented. And by the way, like Monty Williams, like putting a team together for a coach doesn't really make any sense. How many points has Monty Williams scored this season for the Pistons, right? Like coaches don't actually win games, right? They manage. And he has managed to engineer the worst losing streak in NBA history. I don't trust a single decision that he has made. We just had the idea given to him by the front office that Jaden Ivey should have the ball in his hands. What are we doing? He didn't want the job. They kept throwing money at him until he took the job. I wish I had the problems that Monty Williams has. Taking that job, oh my God, I would also mail it in and take the money. This is not a Jaden Ivey problem. And you're not going to get enough in a Jaden Ivey trade to reset the deck. You're just not. So if you were going to reset the deck, the way to do it would be Cade Cunningham. That could be a Herschel Walker-like trade where you get 4 future firsts, maybe 4 swaps. I mean, Cade Cunningham at this stage of his career, that would be a franchise-altering move. And yes, it is a reset, but you're not going anywhere as it is. So I would make the argument that Jaden Ivey, sure, maybe you move him, but Cade Cunningham, that's the big piece of bait that could net you a huge load in the future. And now, I don't know if I would do that. That would take some real guts, but I don't know. I think there might be new decision makers up there.
So just to be clear, Dave, you're saying this year you would trade Cade before you trade Jaden Ivey.
I'm saying if the idea is I can trade this young player, create some clarity, and get assets in return, then you might as well do Cade Cunningham and get a real return. I mean, a real return. You could probably get a very good young player or two and 6 to 8 draft picks as far as picks and swaps if you were to make Cade Cunningham available. I mean, he's a high-level player. Like, this is a guy who was considered to be a number one franchise cornerstone. Now, I don't think he's shown enough to still have that moniker, but this is like second best player on a title team, maybe eventually, and he would net a haul. I don't think Mike would argue with that.
I just want to, for the sake of argument and for the sake of winning points, I want to summarize our 2 arguments. I am saying the Pistons should trade Jaden Ivey in a way to get better. Dave is saying the 6-win Pistons should rebuild. All right, let's just get out there by trading away their best player and their best prospect. I mean, sometimes there's a line between crazy and genius, and I think someone's crossed it.
The argument was Dejounte Murray needs to be moved, which you agreed with, and I forced you to pivot into Jaden Ivey and who you were incorrect about. Like, let's just.
What about Dejounte Murray for Jaden Ivey?
Well, now that's interesting.
That is, isn't it?
But Dejounte Murray taking you from a 9-win team to a 12-win team.
Yeah, would the Pistons do that trade? I don't know.
No.
If they
would. I think it's kind of interesting. They need to get better immediately. I understand you're giving up the potential upside of Jaden Ivey, but DeJounte's still pretty young. He's on a great deal moving forward too. And I think the Pistons just, reading the tea leaves, have some incentives to try to get better immediately. I don't know. There's crazier things out there.